I think you're muted, Carlos. I think your mic's on mute. Yep. Well, what is happening, everybody? I'm going to wait for Carlos to fix his audio here. We are here and live, Real Talk. All right, there we go. Carlos, take it away.
There we go. I'm going to do what it do. Jamal, that's what you always say when you send a message, and I got to go ahead and give you that because it's really, really catchy. So I got my mic fixed. I got it going. Thanks for taking over for a bit, Jamal. But we are talking Mets today. We are talking the big fire. Carlos Mendoza got fired today. And I mean, if it's a shocker to you, I mean, I don't know where you've been living, but I don't think it's a shocker to me. Is it a shocker to you, Jamal?
No, I mean, I think they gave him a little bit of leeway when the team was starting. It looked like the team was starting to come up a little bit. And then this last free fall, you could tell it's like, okay, here we go again. And that was the last straw.
Yeah, I honestly didn't feel like. I mean, I don't know if you saw Francisco Lindor's video where he was saying that he was shocked and he was just, thinking about what's going on. And I mean, I don't know if I should, really believe that he was shocked. I think they were playing horrible. He just came off of the IL, of course, and you have the Mets not playing good at all. And that's the thing when you have a team not playing or not performing, the guy that usually takes the blame is the manager. And in this case, it's Carlos Mendoza. And the Mets just look like they can't get out of the bottom for some reason. I know the Phillies, they were in the same slump and then they got rid of their manager and look where they're at now. They're 4 games behind the Braves. Wow. Yeah. And so you think the Mets with this, news and firing Carlos Mendoza, are the Mets going to be any good moving forward?
I think that we're looking at the same team that we're going to see the rest of the season. I really believe that. I mean, you're looking at some of the and Ken Rosenthal was talking about something earlier today where it was like, obviously Mendoza's going to be the fall guy. He's the manager of the clubhouse. You knew that was inevitable. But I think David Stearns, you got to take a look at him too. Like some of the managerial moves that he made this past off season, not working out very well. And the biggest one, obviously, letting Pete Alonso go. And that was one of your cornerstones, if not the cornerstone for that team for a while. Durability has been an issue with the pieces they brought back in return. Jorge Polanco, like how many games has he played this year? That's another guy that they went out and got. Luis Robert Jr., that's the same deal there. All these guys that they got, they're either on the IL or extremely underperforming. And you look at the guys they shipped out, Brandon Nimmo and Pete Alonso heading out, and they're all starting to perform. And you just wonder, I think David Stearns has to take a look at himself and say, hey, take some accountability for some of the moves that he made this past off season.
Yeah, you know what? I think David Stern has a lot of blame in this situation, and he just felt like to get rid of the manager. And I feel like that's a scapegoat for him because he didn't provide the team and he didn't provide, the solution for the Mets. They went in 2024, they went deep into the playoff run. And of course they faced the Dodgers and the Dodgers went to the World Series that year. But then you go into 2025, you have the same roster. You went and got Juan Soto and nothing came of it. You lost your Pete Alonso, like you just said. He was one of the fan favorites out there. And it's crazy to hear that he just left without him getting any, call or anything from David Stern. So, I mean, of course he's going to leave and go with the money. And then you get rid of another fan favorite, which was Brandon Nimmo. He was there for the longest. He's been the longest Met. And you just get rid of him. And then you go get rid of Edwin Diaz, where you don't give him a call. You don't let him know that, hey, we want you back for the Mets. We want you closing for the Mets. And it didn't happen. Of course, everybody knows he went with the Dodgers, but I mean, he's injured right now. But still, you let that guy go, and he was a short thing as a stopper. You went and get Bo Bichette, and this signing, I'm kind of questioning right now. Is Bo Bichette happy there? Is he not? is he there right now? Like I only remember highlights from him being in the Blue Jays, and that was about a year ago. So when
Yeah.
things like that, and when you sign players like that and they're not producing, I don't understand what's going on with the Mets, man. And there was conversation, and we're going to go ahead and talk about that. They were Carlos Beltran and Albert Pujols have been mentioned to be running this team. I know there's another manager right now. He's playing manager Andy Green. If you guys don't remember who Andy Green is, he was a manager for the Padres when Dave Roberts wanted to pretty much go whoop his ass, right? Yeah. So I mean that happened I guess what 2021, 2022, I
Yeah.
believe,
Yeah.
around that time. So yeah, it's just uh, when you say those names about the Mets, do you think they're going to go after him this year, or they're going to go after him in the offseason?
Man, I really think it's probably something that's going to happen in the off season. I would guess. I'd venture to say, especially where you got guys that like don't have any prior managerial experience. It'd be kind of tough to bring them in the middle of the season for that. But crazier things have happened before, so I wouldn't completely rule it out. But what was I think Pujols has the Dominican League that he did. I think he went 34-25 in that league.
Hmm.
Um, so a little bit of respectability there, but obviously a different league. You're talking about going into the majors and managing. And I love how they said it was like, oh yeah, the Mets are exploring this because Albert Pujols is a friend of Juan Soto. It's like, okay, that's fine, but there's other people on the team too.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
You still
like,
have to go through your interview process. You can't just go ahead and hand them the job. They has to go through the interview process and have them go, see, hey, does he fit here? Is he going to be able to come and fix things? Because that's when you're looking at the Mets, man. It's a team that you're like, okay, they have all the money in the world. They can go ahead and spend on players, but this is a perfect case of money doesn't buy championships. And this is where I feel like the Mets are a perfect example of that, where you are mixing all these guys with different attitudes, different way of different work ethic. Don't forget Francisco Lindor is there. And
yeah,
all this mix up and all these things that are going on with the Mets, we forget there's a premier all-star shortstop playing in the Mets that's not even talked about. But with all this negativity the Mets had, these past few seasons, and then this season starting off the way they did, and now they fired Carlos Mendoza. It just feels like maybe Albert Pujols, yeah, he would want the job, but then you got to look at the other guy, Carlos Beltran,
yeah.
and we all know what he did and what happened with him, and I think the first day on of his job, he got fired with the Mets when the scandal came out. And that's the thing that you got to look at as well. Is Carlos Beltran another good choice for the Mets to move forward? Maybe 2027.
Yeah, again, you got that track record there. It'd be very odd if they bring him back.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Mets are going to be an interesting team because you still have Juan Soto. He's playing out of he's still the key guy there now. Obviously, with Pete Alonso gone, and Francisco Lindor is still. Hopefully, he can recover. He's been on the IL for quite a bit. I think he'll get into rhythm here eventually. But
Yeah.
it's an interesting mix right now because you got some young prospects there. You got Carson Bench and then AJ Ewing, who've been brought up and have actually been playing stellar ball for them since they've been called up.
Hmm.
And so it's a nice it's kind of an exciting nucleus there, but you really need the right person for the job. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Not to say that Albert Pujols is not the right guy. We don't. It'd be fair to say that he's. It wouldn't be fair to say he's not, since we don't really have a track record other than a winter league with the Dominican team. But yeah, exciting times. But yeah, I don't think this is going to happen in season. I think we're looking at next year.
Yeah, and I want to go ahead and say, Fat Cake Hot Takes is on Instagram. Thank you guys. Thank you for being on here. We are recognizing that you're on here, so I'll go ahead and put what you just posted. If you're a Dodger hater, the Mets are ruining baseball. Why? Because they spend all that money in the offseason, but not producing on the field, therefore providing to the league. The money doesn't buy championships, as one of the hosts you just mentioned. Yeah, there you go. Thank you for that comment, man. We really appreciate it. We are live on Instagram. We're live on YouTube. If you haven't done so, if you guys can come down to YouTube and subscribe and hit that like, we'll really appreciate it. We are on Instagram, but Instagram, I think it only goes up to 15 minutes. That's the problem. I don't know how to fix that problem. If you guys know how to fix it, send it over. I'll go ahead and fix it now. But yeah, one more thing I wanted to talk about the Mets is that I honestly think that with all these trades, or actually all these acquisitions they had, do you think they might get rid of Peralta? He hasn't done all that great. Freddie Peralta got traded last year from the Brewers to the Mets, and the Mets were expecting that he was going to be their ace, and nothing has happened, right? Do you
Yeah.
feel like maybe he will get traded from the Mets?
That's what all the rumblings are right now, is that he's going to get dealt before or at the deadline to a contending team. Just the oddly enough, the Brewers' name has come up a couple times, which would be extremely weird if that were to
Going
happen.
back?
Going back and then
Yeah.
going back for what, a rental? That'd be kind of odd, but that has
Yeah.
come up oddly
Yeah.
enough. Not to say this is etched in stone, but that has been speculated on a couple of outlets, I will say.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got to look at some of these contending teams in the AL and see if they want to take a stab at a Freddie Peralta. I think he could still he can offer something big for a contending team.
Yeah.
We're not putting him at the level of a Tarek Skubal by any means, but still, fastball Freddie, when he's on, he's up. He can be one of the best pitchers in the league. So,
Yeah.
but the Brewers thing, I think that came about because you think about this guy. He actually did not want to leave Milwaukee. He actually enjoyed it there. So you kind of wonder, maybe he wasn't. Maybe he's not for the bright lights of New York. We've talked about it before with some of these guys. Devin Williams was one of the guys we talked about, doing much better with the Mets than he was with the Yankees. But still, the bright lights there in New York. Maybe getting to some of these guys, and maybe a change of address would be what would help Freddie Peralta and the contending team.
Fat Cat Hot Takes is saying Peralta to the White Sox. I feel they have a young is down.
Yeah, that's a good
there.
take.
The Mets would love. So I don't know. Just a hot take. Hey, I love the hot take. Thank you, Fat Cat, for do that. Let's give him a shout out. He does some. Actually, he does post some baseball content as well. If you guys want to go give him that follow, we really appreciate it. He always comments on our stuff, and we try to do the same thing with his things. And it's all about growing and networking. And of course, if we can probably have you on the show as well. I think that'll be a good idea to bring in some other eyes and some other conversation starters, because it's always about baseball. We love talking about baseball, and why not, right? Going back to the Mets, man, I want to go ahead and say that something crazy to me that the Mets always do, and always it's been happening all year. When Juan Soto goes on the IL, for some reason, you have Lindor coming back. And then when Lindor goes to the IL, you have Juan Soto, going, vice versa, right? And then you have Marcus Semien doing the same thing. So we've heard with Juan Soto play with the Padres and how that, house and how everything in the clubhouse was not working out. Do you think the same thing was happening with the Mets, and that's why Carlos Mendoza couldn't pretty much navigate his team because there's too many egos in that team?
I think it is. I think there's more to it than what's going on. And if you think back, one of the reasons that Brandon Nimmo was shipped out last season, or this past off season, was because he and Lindor didn't see eye to eye either, reportedly. And there have been reports there that it's not all roses with Juan Soto and Francisco Lindor. So it's interesting to see it. There's no, no real proof in the pudding yet as far as that goes, but it just something is not clicking with this team. They're not on, firing on all cylinders. There's not that cohesiveness there,
Yeah.
and I keep going back to when Juan Soto was on the IL and how he kind of shrugged off the losing streak and just kind of did so in a kind of nonchalant manner. It's like, whoa, dude, like you were like the leader on this team now that might want to like care to see what's going on with the teammates there. But
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
I think maybe hopefully he's grown from that, but that was one of the things that raised eyebrows earlier this season.
Yeah, we got BJ Santana, 8415. Santana, you're saying as a Mets fan, New York is tough place. Some guys can handle it. And, we noticed that because, I mean, Jamal's a Yankee fan, and we talked about several players going to the bright lights out there in New York, and they just don't produce, And, maybe you can tell us, you're a Mets fan. Do you see or do you feel like there's tension with, Juan Soto and the door? Like, is that something that fans are talking about, and fans really feel like, you know what, we need to go ahead and do something about this? One of these guys needs to go. I mean, you would hate for these future Hall of Famers to leave the Mets, but that's something that has to be put on the table, and it needs to happen now because the Mets have the money, they have the talent, they have rookies coming up, like you just said, all these
Yeah.
prospects, and they're not doing what they need to do. So the crazy thing with the Mets too, one last thing, I just feel like it's all Mets right now. I feel like maybe if they start from scratch, even if they
Yeah.
get rid of David Stern, dude, they need to get rid of David Stern. I don't know what you feel about that, but they need to get rid of him, and he's the one that got the Mets in this big mess that they are right now. So, do you give him this year, or is he going to continue to be the GM for the Mets?
I think I give him this year. Like I think he'll stick it out for the season. But man, it's just like we're talking about Craig Breslow in Boston. Like, something's got to give there as well. And I feel like this is the National League version of it right now. You
Yeah.
gotta look at something. There's always a scapegoat, but then there's more to it than just the scapegoat. And you gotta clean house or do something. And I don't know what that looks like right now. Maybe it's shipping a Lindor or or something like that and trying to build around. But man, it's tough. There's got to be a change there because even with Mets fans, they're not going to be taking this for next season for sure.
Yeah. Santana saying Lindor wife and Brandon Nimmo wife had a fight last year in the clubhouse. It wasn't even the two guys. So when it came out in the news and ESPN, it looked like, Lindor had pretty much they had a fight, and that's why they got rid of all these players. So it's going to be a story to tell at the end of the year. We're going to see probably a yard sale or maybe an estate sale out in New York. And you hate to see that because you try to put this team together and you try to move forward, and it just didn't happen for the Mets. And I mean, only time will tell. There's still a long season to go. You still have the All-Star break to go through. You still have to send your players to the All-Star game. And, it's pretty much a long season for the Mets. And you would hate to see, like, when you have a nice roster and you're always thinking, this is a year we go and we win the World Series, and the Mets can't do it. It sucks for the fan base. It sucks for the fan base. All right, man, let's move on forward.
Ernie's on here. He says David Stern's in the hot seat. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he's on the hot seat. I mean, all the Mets front office should be in the hot seat. Everybody, including the Bat Boy.
Do the Bat Boy like that, Carlos.
Hey, you gotta include everything. You gotta get all the negativity that's been there since the beginning of 2025. You gotta get rid of it. You gotta get rid of all the stuff that was there 2026, which is just this year. And I mean, unfortunately, sometimes you just gotta clean house and you gotta start. You got to end with the Bad Boy, and that's that's what it is. So we got. I'm gonna go ahead and switch it up. We're gonna move on to the next topic. It is another rivalry week. We got the Padres Dodgers facing off at 7. You had the Yankees Red Sox happened yesterday. It's a 4-game series, and I did see a comment on here, Jamal. who won yesterday, and they just want to go ahead and they want you to answer actually. So I'll let you take it away with that one.
Oh, my beautiful wife put me on the hot seat here. Yeah, yes, the Red Sox, they got the victory, and it looks like they're going to win again. Oh man, rough
Yeah.
times right now. Rough times for the Yankees, but that's all right. We'll rebound.
Hey, it happens when your team is playing good baseball, and then all of a sudden a team that's struggling and is
Yes,
they're at the bottom of the division, and they come and they beat you up. That's the one that hurts the most because you weren't even thinking about that team, but that team is
yes.
coming to beat you up, and it sucks, man. Uh, I feel for you, Jamal, but I also like the Red Sox. I like the young stars that are there. I just feel like for some reason, can't get it together. They fired Alex Cora at the beginning of the year. Last year, they got rid of Devers, and all this young core. Marcelo was one of the guys that I felt like was going to do good this year, and he didn't. He hasn't done anything. Jaron Duran is nowhere to be found. I think he's batting under the Mendoza line. I know we just talked about Carlos Mendoza, another Mendoza line, but yeah, he's batting under. But maybe they'll get it together and they'll do something with it. But yeah, it's just a disappointing year for the Red Sox, man. Since we're talking about that rivalry, but is that rivalry still going on? Like it still feels good. It still feels fresh.
Um, this season, no, just because I would say where the Red Sox are, but saying that, I will say that like Conley early, he came in and pitched a crazy game against Cam Schlittler and won that battle.
Yeah,
So between you got Conley early, Peyton Tolley, those two guys are some big time pitching guys that can pitching rookies here that coming into next season, we may have a newborn rivalry here, some renewed blood between, and I love it. Cam Schlittler is talking this thing up. He's putting his voice out there. Didn't get the W last night, but still, you like to see that. I think it's good for the game. I think it's good for the rivalry. I think we'll see a fresh start there, Red Sox Yankees next season.
say it again, Jay. That's what they're asking. You got to give it to them.
The Red Sox were winners last night, big time
Last
game.
night,
And
yeah,
then it looks like they're winning tonight as well. Pretty
you're like,
lopsided, I might say. Oh
no, I don't want to hear
man,
that.
ah,
Yeah, yeah. You got the Dodgers and Padres going at it again. It doesn't feel the same right now because the Padres are 8.5 or 9.5 back from the Dodgers. They're in the cellar, like, and I mean, we've seen Tatis struggle. We've seen Machado struggle. They did beat up on the Braves, so they're
yes
coming
they
from
did. Yeah,
they're coming from a good series where they could potentially do something in this series here. And they're playing in San Diego and Petco. So I mean, do I feel the same intensity? I try to see some on social media. I haven't seen a lot of people hyping this series up like they have in the past. Maybe because they're not as close as it's been in the past. And yeah, I do kind of like when they you know poke at the bear. They
yeah.
start saying, "Hey, let's do the series. Let's go beat up on the Dodgers." That's what the Padres are saying. Don't quote me wrong, because quotes are getting me
Won't do
in
that.
trouble
Yeah.
around here.
What you stop? You stop and think about it, though, Carlos. The last time they faced each other, the Padres were actually leading the NL West.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it was after that series is when the free fall started for the Padres.
yeah, yeah,
Forget how many it was, the stretch they lost, but it was a huge stretch after that, and that was game 2 of that series. It seemed like that was where it seemed like Mason Miller for the first time this season looked human.
yeah.
It was struggling with command, and I don't think he picked up the loss in that second game, but I remember he was a big reason why the Dodgers ended up winning and coming back. So
Yeah.
I think there may be some demons there from that series still. So this would be an important one for them. That, like you said, they have been picking it up a little bit here lately. Big time win. If you can win the series against the Braves, sweeping them, that's a pretty good momentum builder heading into this one.
So yeah, and there's two questions you can answer or you can ask about those series. Was the Padres just playing hot or were the Braves already slowing down? And only way we can find out is if you see the entire season, which it hasn't happened yet. But yeah, a lot of people were saying that the Padres, that's it for them. This is where they start falling off again. And I mean, it's still a long season, man. There's still a lot of
Still
things that can happen.
season.
Look at what happened to the Phillies, dude. The Phillies were down in the cellar with the Mets. They fired their manager, and look where they're at. They're only 4 games behind the Braves. We were talking in this show and saying, I don't think the Phillies are going to come back. I don't think the Mets are going to come back. But look at where the Phillies are at. They're holding the
Right?
second spot or the first or second spot of the wild card. And
Yeah.
this is amazing how interesting things are with the NL East because of this run. And Don Manley, I mean, whatever he's doing is working. Uh, and I know I said that, oh, maybe he's going to mess up and he's going to do something that he shouldn't be doing. But I'm swallowing my words right now. He's doing what he needs to do with the Phillies. The Phillies are playing good baseball. And, this is the team that I think all Philly fans wanted to see from the get go. They have a star studded team, and we've said this for the past years. They are getting old. And could this be the last year before they all start getting injured, before they all start thinking of retirement, before they start like thinking of, I just don't want to play for the Phillies anymore. It's time to go elsewhere. But I mean, only time will tell. And the Phillies are playing good baseball. I know it's not the rival like that we're talking about, but you have the Yankees, Red Sox, we have the Dodgers, Padres, and one more. We got the Cubs and Brewers. And this one's an interesting one too, man. I honestly like this rivalry right now. These two teams are playing good baseball. You have a guy that likes to talk a lot of crap in TBA, and this is great for baseball, of course. So, I mean, what do you think it's which one do you think is the biggest rivalry right now?
Oh man, right now that would be so. I'm trying to think of. I think Brewers and Cubs is a pretty tough one.
Yeah,
They were talking about PCA. So a little tidbit from this game earlier. So Jacob Mizorowski is coming out blazing right in the start. He threw a 105.5 mile per hour fastball, and PCA actually got a piece of it. He fouled it off, but he actually got a piece of this 105 mile per hour fastball from Jacob Mizorowski. So there's a little gamesmanship going on here between those two, and you really like it. You like what the Brewers side of things, that they're pitching. That I think is just still stellar, and I think it does ultimately win out against this Cubs team. But this Cubs team they've been battling, or they've been coming back here lately. They're only a half game. We're talking about the Phillies. The Phillies are holding it down with the number one wild card spot.
yep,
But the Cubs are only a half game behind the Phillies for the number one wild card spot, which is mind boggling considering
it
their
is.
injuries there in the with their starting pitching. And they just got more bad news. Ben Brown, who had been pitching so well for them, goes on the IL with a severe neck strain, it looks like here. So something that derailed his season a couple seasons back, actually ended his season. So it's something to keep an eye on there for the Cubs. But man, they're just digging away. So between them and it looks like the Padres are also half a game back for that wild card spot. So the Phillies got some company there. So it's gonna be pretty tight to say. But yeah, this Brewers Cubs rivalry, you got Craig Counsell being a part of both of those teams. So that gets a little bit into it. There were even some Chicago Cubs fans on one outlet that were like, "Oh, Craig Counsell's just he's just trying to." He's working undercover for the Brewers still, and that's why we're doing so bad. Like what?
Yeah, yeah. Like, what are you
so
talking about?
so the fan bases are just going crazy over this, and yeah, I think it's a pretty exciting rivalry.
Yeah, and what's crazy? A lot of people from Wisconsin, I mean, Milwaukee and Chicago, they started saying that this is the best rivalry, and I could get into it, but I don't know how big it is until I go into the stadium and taste it
Yeah.
for myself. Like I want to try it. I want to go and see what's it all about. It's not fair to me to say, oh, it's not. And I don't know what really happens out in the stadium. I mean, I know the Chicago White Sox and the Chicago Cubs. That's a huge one.
Ooh.
You can see it out in the TV, how they go back and forward. But this one's a more divisional rivalry. You have Craig Counsell, like you said, he just left the Cubs. He said, I'm just going to go and interview for the Milwaukee Brewers. They offered me the job. All right, Cubs, see ya. So that's pretty much what happened. Like, and that to me was like a slap in the face to our Cub fans and the Cubs organization, the way he did it. But
Yeah.
remember, when they got Craig Counsell to be the head coach or the head manager for the Cubs, they got rid of David Ross, and they didn't even tell David Ross anything, and they had given the job to Craig Counsell. So, it's just karma, I think.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah, that is wild. So you got Christian Yelich is one of the old time players there, and he's still playing for the Brewers. He's still producing for the Brewers. I have him on my fantasy, by the way. He's doing okay. He's not doing all that.
And one guy
Yeah.
we didn't really talk about when we were talking about the NL All Stars, which first off, I will say while we're live, if I had to do over again, I would replace Andy Pages with James Wood. I was looking at this and I was looking at several things. I was like, no, I can't have James Wood sit on the bench. Not with the Nationals doing so well. So if I had to do that over again, James Wood would be starting over Andy Pages with Jordan Walker and PCA in the NL outfield. That being said, somebody that if he had not been on the IL would be running away with this thing, who would get my vote immediately, is Jackson Chourio. This guy has just come back from the IL raking, and there was a lot of excitement surrounding him to start the season. Kind of got derailed there when he ended up on the IL, but he has just come out guns blazing since coming off the IL, and every game you're looking at this guy to do something electric for this Brewers team, and he's really the guy right now. No disrespect to Bryce Terang, who's had an incredible season as well.
Yeah.
But man, Jackson Chourio, this guy is something special to watch.
Yeah, and is this his sophomore year or junior year already?
This is junior year.
Junior year,
I believe it is. Yeah, because
So
last season was his first full.
He's not a kid anymore. No. He's one of I'm becoming one of the veterans in the Brewers team, because they trade off a bunch of players, and some of these players don't even last with the Brewers that long. But he's going to be there for quite a while. He has a nice little contract with them. He's going to be producing for the Brewers, so that's a good thing for them. All right. Anything else you want to talk about before we go ahead and log out, man? I know one of the big things that we wanted to talk about was Carlos Mendoza, the rivalry week, and we got him through, and there's something else that you want to mention before we log out. I know you wanted to get that one out, James Wood. I know that one was eating at you. I know you were like, I need to let it out. I need to let everybody know I want to change it.
Had to change that one. Had to do it. Well, the Angels, Ernie, if he's still on here, that's the big news that just came out. Was yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, their GM ends up, getting the axe here. So yeah, and he was another one where we're like, Menagian, we're like, hey, what's gonna happen here? Why isn't something happening sooner? And it's just wild to say with this Angels, this Angels team, where are they gonna go? And I hate to say this, Ernie's he's gonna whack me one right here, probably on if he could. But man, it might be time to do what the NBA did, the MLB version of the Minnesota Timberwolves with Kevin Garnett, where it's like, yeah, we got to trade you. We got to get Mike Trout out of there and get him into a World Series situation. I know he doesn't want to, and he's been very loyal, and it's good to see the loyalty. But man, you want to see this guy win a World Series with all that he's done for the game, and have a chance at it. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. But at first, it was like I want to see this guy end his career with the Angels. Now I'm kind of not so sure. I'd like to see him on a contending team fighting for a World Series.
You know, you're not the only one that thinks that, and you're not the only one that actually would want that from Mike Trout. Why? Because Mike Trout's one of those top players that we've always looked at and we said, man, this guy's a tough dude. He plays through injuries, he plays hard all the time. And you know, we've heard Ernie say like that's one of his favorite players because he goes out and represents the Angels, how the Angels play and what the Angels are about. But at some point, at you have to realize like, hey, my team needs to go ahead and start, you know, fresh. They need to start picking up their new GM now that Permanation is out of there. It took them a while to fire, though. It took them a while. And
Yeah.
who's next? I mean, Artie Moreno starts selling that team, dude. I think honestly, you need to sell that team because I've said it before. The Angel fan base is a big fan base, and it's kind of wasting right now. You're not making the team any more interesting. You're not putting a product out in the field. You're not making any fan welcome because you're not spending on players for kids to go watch. And when you go to the stadium out there, you feel like, man, what's going on here? Where's everybody at? So everybody's uninterested. And then I remember when the Dodgers were going through that phase, and I didn't want to go to the stadium. I didn't even want to look at games because I felt at the start of the season, the Dodgers weren't going to do anything. Yeah, you got a little hype. They got a 13-game winning streak, and then you're like, oh, yeah, they're going to do something. But that's all it was. It was just a 13-game winning streak, and then they go back down. You know, you start firing all these things, all these front office guys, but they need to prove that they want to go ahead and win. Artie Moreno, if you're listening, I'm not an Angels fan, but listen to your fan base. Listen to
Yes.
all the guys that really want to pay for their ticket to go watch an Angels game, to spend on a beer, to spend on some cookies, to spend on some nachos. You know, that's what brings the revenue. So give them what they want. They don't want a safe
Yeah.
place.
Right.
They want to be proud to wear the Angels jersey and say, "Hey, my owner did this for us. Let's go ahead and pay it back with going to the games." That's all I got
Yeah,
to
our
say.
man Ernie's been going out there. He's trying to save money for crying out loud. He's still going out there and supporting his
Yeah.
team. Come on,
Yeah.
man. Give Ernie a team to root for here.
Yeah.
Chicks
Yeah.
Love Baseball said clean house, the bat boy and all. It might be too late. Trout is getting up there. Yeah, it might very well be. But yeah.
Yeah. All right. We already said our last mentions. Thank you guys for being on here. Same as yesterday, we went and got on IG. We got on Facebook. We're on here on YouTube. Thank you guys for being on here and talking baseball with us. That's how we like. We like when people interact with us and we can go ahead and answer questions and stuff like that. Yeah, if you haven't done so, hit that subscribe, hit that like, hit that share. And, you know, I'm Carlos Baseball. This is Jamal J. Dizzle, Real Talk Baseball, signing out.